Early Saturday morning, February 28th, the United States launched missiles at Iran. Iran, in retaliation, launched missiles all across the region, including UAE, Dubai, the Saudi Arabia, Israel, a French naval base. Now the question on everyone's mind is, what is going to happen from here? How will this end for the United States? I'm Dominic Lobby, and this is The Debate. Marco Rubio came out recently and replied to all these questions that people have been asking, such as, is this just about Israel? Did we go in only to please Israel?
That is what they were trying to do, is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they could inflict on the region would be so high that no one can do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have.
He is saying that, no, this is not just about Israel. This is the United States doing what the United States should do. He says that Iran is developing missiles and drones at such a rate that we're not going to be able to stop them from developing a nuke. They'll be impenetrable. I know a lot of people are going to say, they've been saying this for a long time now. Iran's close to getting a nuclear bomb. That's true. We have been saying that for a while now. And it kind of gives off, the boy who cried wolf vibes. But is the response we should have to just totally blow off Iran and ignore them? Because then they're going to get that nuclear bomb. And then it's game over for us. Because you'll have a nation that's completely hates our guts, as hates Israel's guts. And they'll say that out loud. That they're going to have a nuclear bomb, a weapon of mass destruction. That's not going to end well. The king of Saudi Arabia has something to say about Iran getting a nuclear bomb.
At its heart, what is this rift about? Is it a battle for Islam?
Iran is not a rival to Saudi Arabia. Its army is not among the top 5 armies in the Muslim world. The Saudi economy is larger than the Iranian economy. Iran is far from being equal to Saudi Arabia.
But I've seen that you called the Ayatollah Khamenei the new Hitler of the Middle East.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because he wants to expand. He wants to create his own project in the Middle East, very much like Hitler, who wanted to expand at the time. Many countries around the world and in Europe did not realize how dangerous Hitler was until what happened happened. I don't want to see the same events happening in the Middle East.
Does Saudi Arabia need nuclear weapons to counter Iran?
Saudi Arabia does not want to acquire any nuclear bomb. But without a doubt, if Iran developed a nuclear bomb, we will follow suit as soon as possible.
He's telling us that if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, he'll have to develop a nuclear bomb as well, in self-defense. He doesn't want to, but he will if he has to. And that's not just Saudi Arabia. There's other countries in the region, like Israel, that will also have to develop nuclear bombs out of self-defense. So if Iran goes nuclear, the whole region goes nuclear. And that's not exactly a trustworthy region. That region has been known for just constant warfare. That's not a region you want to have weapons of mass destruction. That's going to end in World War III. Nukes flying everywhere. That's not good for anyone. We need to make sure that that does not happen. And in order to make sure that does not happen, we need to keep Iran from even getting the ball rolling. Now, for the idea that we should just ignore Iran practically because we don't know if they're actually close to a nuclear bomb, well, this is completely different now because we have information that they're developing a way to defend that nuclear bomb. So we can't just sit back and watch them develop that. We have to strike now before it's too late. Otherwise, they're going to have all these defense systems, so we won't be able to pull off what we did like Midnight Hammer, where we went in and just secretly blew up the place without them even noticing us, really. We won't be able to do that anymore, which means they'll be able to finish their project and actually have the nuclear bomb. I mean, right after Midnight Hammer, Iran came out and said they are going to continue developing this nuclear bomb. So the Trump administration has made it, he's been very clear on the before he's even elected, he made it very clear he will not allow Iran to get a nuclear bomb. J.D. Vance said if he has to, he will support attacking Iran. The Senate just voted on whether Trump's allowed to do this or not, because a Democrat wanted to revoke some of Trump's permissions or whatever. They wanted to reel him back in, and they actually voted in favor of what Trump's doing. They support him, which is kind of shocking. I was surprised by that, given the tariffs thing and the whole debate as to whether he was allowed to go into Venezuela and do what he did. So I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. Now, as to alternatives to bombing Iran and just keeping them from getting this nuclear program finished, we have tried talks for a long time. You've heard they keep talking and talking and talking with Trump and his team, and it never goes anywhere. And last week he said, if we do not get a meaningful deal, there will be a strike on Iran. And he fulfilled that promise. I mean, if he didn't fulfill that promise, Iran would just never take his threat seriously. And then they would really get that nuclear bomb. I knew that whole talk would not end in a deal because Iran wants that nuke. The United States does not want them to have that nuke. There's no really in between there because it's all or nothing in this case. We either allow them to have the nuclear bomb or we don't allow them to. So I don't see what kind of deal would even come from that. I mean, the only deal that would have come from that would be Iran somehow isn't going to continue their development of the nuclear bomb. But Trump isn't going to do that. So I knew that I kind of knew that they were going to strike Iran. I wasn't too surprised, but I was a little surprised by the timing of it. I thought it would take longer than that, but it was expected. Now, people are claiming that Trump lied about keeping us out of wars, but that's not exactly true. That's not what Trump said. He said keeping us out of pointless wars. He said if he was in charge, Ukraine would never have come under fire from Russia. That's a pointless war to us. That's not helping us in any way. Or China threatening Taiwan. That's a pointless war that it affects us negatively. So he wants to keep that from happening. And the way you do that is by showing strength. Because when you show strength, it gets Russia and China to back off. Because they know that if the United States actually flexes her muscles, that they can't stop us. But there's a lot of things that hold us back from flexing our muscles, like the people's support and Congress's support and a competent president who's not dead, like Joe Biden. I mean, right after we attacked Iran, Russia came out and said that they will provide security guarantees for Ukraine. That's huge. That's showing that Trump is right. Peace through strength. Biden was saying peace through weakness. Obama said that too. They said that if we get rid of our military, then everyone else will just stop fighting, which obviously is not true because when we stop fighting in the Middle East, then things get worse. There's more war. And when we stop fighting, Ukraine is invaded by Russia, and Taiwan would have been invaded by China if we had elected Biden for a second term. Now, to be clear, war is a terrible thing. It is nothing that we should cheer about. I know some people's first reaction to this is cheering about it. Some people say Trump's an idiot, but either way, it's hard to imagine how bad war truly is if you're not there. The only thing we see is that our little title on the screen that says we did this in the fight, and this is what good came from it, or this is what bad came from it. We don't truly see what war is. So it's hard to keep that in your mind as we're fighting Iran. Yes, it's just and prudent for us to strike Iran, but it's not something that we should be cheering about. We really should be cheering for peace, peace across the entire world peace, but that's not always the right decision. The leaders of Iran are known for being terrorists. They don't just target military assets, they target civilians as well. I mean, Britain just came out and said that 300,000 civilians are under the gun in the region, the Gulf region, from Iran. They know that Iran would strike them because Iran just kind of, throws missiles wherever they want, see where they land. It's kind of like throwing a bunch of dice on a board and just hoping that they hit something. It's not just military strictly that they attack, unlike countries with some moral ethics to them. But there's not a whole lot of moral ethics in Iran's leadership, it would seem. The leaders of Iran also fund terrorist organizations such as the Houthis. I mean, the Houthis were striking unarmed ships. All they did was ship stuff across the world. And then they shut down the global trade route through that, the Red Sea, I believe it is, and through the Mediterranean. But that really wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the fact that a dead guy was in charge of our country. But the point is, they fund terrorism. So they're not good people. These are not people that anyone should be trying to defend right now. So the question does not come down, the question really comes down to, is this a just war? Well, Mark Rubio explains that, and Trump, they both explain that we knew Iran was going to strike first if we didn't. We knew that Israel was going to go in and they were going to have Iran sees Israel and the United States kind of as the same place. So we knew that, or we had heard that the generals had been ordered already by Iran to strike United States military bases across the region in retaliation of an Israel attack. So this was more of a defensive measure to strike Iran first. And also it's way less casualties this way, because we are prepared for them to launch an attack back, which is why only 4 have died so far, not 400. Iran would have tried to kill as many people as they possibly could. These are not good people. That's why they would do that. Iran has been striking civilians for decades. These people should be punished, and they are being punished now, in a sense. Although this isn't just about punishment for them. This is more than that. This is about global peace, global security. I'm surprised at Europe's response to this. I was expecting Europe to completely say, okay, Trump, you're ridiculous. You better knock it off. We don't like this. We're not getting involved. Because originally that is what they're saying. Until Iran just threw missiles across the entire board and just attacked everywhere, including French naval bases and ships. So now France is coming in. They're like, hey, our civilians are in danger and they're attacking us. We support Trump and we're going to help defeat Iran. So this is good for us. The West is being united. This is rare to see European countries agreeing with Donald Trump. That's very rare, especially given the nature of British government and how corrupt it's become, censoring free speech and all the sorts. Now everyone talks about how Iran and oil. It's always about the oil. United States brings in freedom as an excuse to get oil. That's what they say, and that's sometimes true. But in this case, when it comes to oil, Iran has shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which is a global oil trade route. So that coupled with Venezuela, we just took Venezuela's oil distribution back because it was ours originally, and then they kind of sold it out to China, and then we went in and captured Maduro, and then now we've redirected the oil distribution away from China. So Iran shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, and they've been launching missile attacks at oil production and natural gas production in the region, plus the Venezuela thing. That's 20% of China's oil and gas right there. That's a lot. 20% it may not sound a lot to you because we have a lot of inflated numbers nowadays when we hear about things like Elon Musk has $800 billion. So when you hear $1 million, you're like, oh, that's not too much. But $800 billion is a crazy amount of money. 20% of your oil supply gone, that is a crazy amount. And that's going to hurt China significantly. It's restructuring the power throughout the world. It's showing that America is on top. America is strong. And we will use our military for the better good. To defend ourselves, defend other things like Christians in the Middle East, but really this is more about Iran getting a nuclear bomb. Another thing is don't look at the first YouTube short and suddenly believe that you know it all, because it's probably biased and not telling you everything. I mean, there's 20 seconds. They can't say a whole lot in those 20 seconds. And don't just read headlines either, because I've noticed I'll read a headline and then I'll actually go and read the article, and it's completely different. So they basically lied in the headline, but you wouldn't know that until you read it. So you have a wrong perception of the world if you don't actually read the article. So if you're not going to read the article, don't read the headlines at all. Although, unless you're like reading through the headlines to find what's interesting to you, of course. But like this one, I saw this one that was funny. It's not so much a lying headline, but it kind of is. CNN basically said that it is a lying headline. They said Americans do not support attacking Iran. But we know that's not true from other sources aside from CNN, which already is a terribly unreliable source. And then you read the article and they texted 1,000 Americans. That's it, just 1,000 Americans out of 350 million. You cannot come to an actual conclusion from just 1,000 people. It's just a handful of people in relative terms. And it probably wasn't random people. It was probably people who watch CNN only, who of course the majority of are going to disavow Trump. Because when Trump says not to drink gasoline, all the liberal moms decide to drink gasoline. Well, I don't know if liberal moms exist. There seem to be a lot of single people, strong, independent women. But after having seen these things, the CNN poll and Trump striking Iran, I didn't know a whole lot about it quite yet, and so I held off my judgment on it. But some people, they hear about that, and their immediate reaction is either, oh, that's awesome, or, oh, Trump's stupid. But you really can't make a judgment like that until you actually research the things and figure out, okay, what was the rationale for this? What is the justification? What does the other side say? What is the arguments from both sides of the aisle? What is the full story behind this? Now I can make a decision. Okay, Trump is being smart or Trump is being stupid. But people like to just skip the research part, listen to the first thing that sounds good to them. Well, I don't usually like what Trump does, so I'm just going to say right now I don't like Trump's doing now. Or I usually like what Trump does, so I support him in this anyways. Granted, I did trust the Trump administration to have made the wise decision, but I still researched it just in case, because, again, war is a terrible thing. It's something that you should definitely look into and make sure, hey, this is a good thing to do or this is a bad thing to do, and I'm going to either support Trump in the next election or I'm not going to support him in the next election over this. Now, maybe you shouldn't vote for Joe Biden over Trump just because Trump got us into a let's pretend that this is an unjust war. You should still vote for Donald Trump, because in that case, it would be the lesser of the two evils that you would be choosing from, but it wouldn't be a great option. But the point is, this is not an unjustified war. Marco Rubio has made it clear it's in self-defense because we knew Iran was going to strike first. It's not just because of Israel. It has to do with the whole world, stopping Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. And we know that Iran, being the crazy terrorist Islam people that they are, they would not be very trustworthy with a nuclear bomb. So we had to keep that from happening. And we know that they've been trying to develop a way to protect themselves from getting these attacks on their nuclear program. All this combined, you're like, Trump really does. They said that they knew that they had to go in at some point, and it's just that they're going in now because it's the best time to do so. So it's not just about Israel, like the media, like certain conservatives like to portray it as, and it's not just Trump being stupid. This is a good thing that we should support. Now, people are curious, are we going to win this war? Well, that all comes down to the American people. Are we going to support Donald Trump, or are we going to get all fickle on him and decide in 6 months, no, we hate this, we're going to turn back? Because that's what we did with like a bunch of other wars in the last few decades. And every time we do that, we lose. The Senate used to be the ones who the Senate used to be elected by the representatives. That way the people had to consider what their opinions were and think about them deeply over time. Do I really think this? And then they'd have to elect representatives, and those representatives would have to elect senators. That takes years. And so that would stop this whole people being fickle thing, not knowing what they really want and seeing, oh, the gas price went up 20 cents a gallon. I don't support this war anymore. Because I saw the gas price went up $1 a gallon, which is a lot for me, especially as a college student. But that's not enough for me to say, I think that Trump should stop. Because I know there's a bigger picture here. People miss the bigger picture when it comes to these stories. You have to look at this from a third perspective, not from whatever bias that you already have. You have to step outside of your reality, look at both sides, and see what arguments are most compelling to you. Now, the Roman Empire, for instance, they had a republic, and they would have these tribunals, which would be a gathering of the people to discuss what do they want. And some of these wars that they got themselves into, the people were making terrible decisions because one moment they'd want one thing and the next moment they want another thing, and it would just be a mess. And they would lose the war because of it. You need someone who's smart and knows what he's doing to lead if the people aren't going to actually stand up and do the research for themselves. That's a thing in this country. We don't like to do our own research. We like to just, blindly trust other people. But that's not good. That's contributing to the downfall of the greatest country in our history. This is you guys like to turn this republic into a democracy. You guys, as in the left, they like to say it's a democracy. Well, it's not. It's a republic. But regardless, the democratic side of this, the idea is that the people rule this nation. The people rule this government. But that can't happen if the people are blind. If the people aren't looking into things, figuring out the actual facts of things, then I don't want them to lead my country. I'd rather have just a monarch at that point, because it would be better that way. The monarch would have more idea. He would have a better sense of what's actually going on, rather than people just blindly making decisions, not knowing what's going on. So we have to research things. That's very important. And politics is a very important thing. It affects everyone. It affects the whole world. It affects you. It affects your children. It affects your future children and their children. It's you knowing and electing you knowing what your president is doing, and you knowing what the nominees are doing, or want to do, I should say, in the next election, is quite possibly the difference between peace and World War III. Because if you don't know what your president's doing, or you don't know what the nominee's doing, and you just blindly elect someone, they could be really stupid. They could be an IQ level of 60, room temperature IQ level. So it's very important to do your research. And I point this out about the whole voting thing because I was working for a representative at these polls, and there was this family who came up, and I was going to hand them this literature in support of a representative who our family knows. I know he's a good person. We were going to tell them, hey, you should vote for this guy. And they were like, oh, where's the Republicans' approval sheet? We haven't looked into it at all. They said that to my face. We don't know anything about anyone. We just vote whoever's on the Republicans' approved list. Then they shouldn't be allowed to vote. If that's you, you should not be allowed to vote. That's my opinion on that. That's my take. I think we should have only smart people who actually know what's going on voting. Because although to be fair, if you don't, it's kind of hard, because at that point you get to the whole, okay, who's smart, who's not? And then the government decides that. Well, then the government can decide that only a certain political view is smart and the other side's stupid. So, you can't actually do that. But I'm saying in a perfect world, The only people who should be allowed to vote would be people who actually research these things. But again, in a perfect world, there wouldn't be a need for elections or government per se, because, well, everything would just be orderly as it is. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope that you agreed with me, and if you did, please subscribe. If you didn't agree with me, that's all right. You can leave a comment down below and let me know why you disagreed with me. Or if you agree with me, you can still tell me why you agreed with me. Tell me what you think was great. Tell me what you think wasn't so great. And if you didn't agree with me, you can still subscribe anyways. I appreciate all the subscribers. And I hope that you have an awesome week. God bless.